What happens when a bomb lands next to a bird's nest? It's such a simple, devastating question, and it's right at the heart of Nimawir Tunga's powerful Sinhala poem. Today, we're going to unpack how that single image really challenges our entire understanding of conflict. So, the poem's entire argument is laid out for us right here in the title. On one side, you have bombs. They represent calculated, industrial-scale destruction. And on the other, bird nests. They symbolize something completely different: fragile, natural, painstaking creation. The poem forces us to look at these two opposing forces, one that ends life and one that nurtures it. And this is the central battleground we're going to be exploring. All right, so let's start by looking at how this central metaphor isn't just a title, but it's the very foundation of the poem's entire argument against war. Yeah, this is so much more than just a clever title. It's the poem's entire thesis, boiled down. It pits our instinct to build and nurture, to create a safe place, a nest, directly against our capacity for total, instantaneous destruction. The poem forces us to admit that humanity is capable of both, and it asks us to really reckon with that contradiction. Now, this central metaphor, it very quickly moves from the abstract to something devastatingly practical. The poem argues that this conflict isn't just philosophical, it's economic. It's about what we choose to fund, creation or destruction. Right out of the gate, the poem hits you with this shockingly simple and direct command. It's not just poetry, it's a moral and an economic challenge. It asks this really fundamental question: why are we funding destruction when that exact same money could be used for sustenance? It basically reframes the war budget as a bread budget that's been horribly misspent. And the poem argues this isn't some abstract policy debate. Every dollar spent on a weapon is a dollar that's not being spent on food or housing or medicine. The poem is forcing us to see this choice not as economics, but as a moral calculation with literal life or death consequences. And this line just brilliantly illustrates that human cost. I mean, the language here is chillingly corporate. Finish the stock. But what's the product? Weapons. And how is the stock depleted? By destroying little dreams. The poem is equating the business of war with the business of killing hope itself. So, after tackling the economic cost, the poem takes aim at an even more sacred idea, the very concept of victory. This question, it's a rhetorical one. It confronts the victor directly. It forces them to weigh their triumph against its cost. I mean, what is a victory that floats on rivers of blood? The poem suggests it's not a victory at all, but just a delusion built on devastation. So on one side, you have the perceived glory of victory, the shining trophy, the triumph, the power. But the poem just rips that facade away to show us the brutal reality, a shattered trophy that's built on bloodshed, destruction, and a regression to our most primal, violent state, a return to the Stone Age. And this intense line of questioning then leads us to the moral core of the poem, where it puts our most fundamental beliefs on trial. The poem starts its moral trial by reminding us of our highest ideals. It brings up this universal teaching of nonviolence, turning the other cheek. It's establishing a baseline of our stated beliefs before it confronts us with our actual actions. Then it broadens the scope, right? It moves from personal nonviolence to societal compassion. It asks if freedom and love are meant to be shared equally. You can see the poem is methodically building a case based on the values we all claim to cherish. And then comes the knockout punch. After reminding us of our teachings on peace and love, it asks this brutal, direct question: should we drop bomb rains on doves' nests, the very symbol of peace? The hypocrisy is just laid bare. How can we possibly hold these peaceful ideals and simultaneously commit such violent acts? Finally, the poem concludes by painting this picture of the absolute devastation that's left behind, and it poses one last, unforgettable question. The poem's final vision is just one of total ruin. Here, the bird's nest isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's literal. Homes, cities, entire societies turn to ash. Those dream nests representing our hopes, they're shattered. And in a chilling final thought, the poem suggests that sometimes this destruction isn't just a byproduct of conflict. Sometimes conflict is manufactured just to keep the whole cycle going.
And here, the entire poem comes full circle, right back to that theme of bread from the first stanza. It poses this visceral, practical, and just undeniable question. After all the destruction, after the supposed victory, a basic human need remains: hunger. And the poem's final, brutal truth is that you can't eat bullets.
Ultimately, the poem doesn't give us an answer. It leaves us with a challenge. It forces us to ask, in any conflict that shatters homes, erases futures, and breaks these dream nests, can there ever truly be a winner? The poem seems to suggest that the answer is no.